Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we have a world's first look at a brand new Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Aegislash. Aegislash evolves from Honedge, which can be encountered through Go Battle League rewards or 1-star raids. So I did a remote raid, used a bunch of Rare Candy and Rare Candy XL to max it out, so we can test out the new mechanic that releases with Aegislash. Now, a massive word of warning. This mechanic I don't believe is currently working as intended, as it seems too powerful right now. So I'll explain the mechanic how it currently works, but keep in mind this obviously could change. Aegislash has two forms, Shield form and Blade form. In Shield form, it has a 100 times defense multiplier, meaning it basically takes no damage from any moves. And when it throws a charge attack, then it switches into Blade form. Blade form has a wicked high attack stat, but no bulk to speak of. It can only change back into the Shield form if Blade form uses a shield or if it switches out. I want to give a big thank you to the members of my Discord for doing these Open Great League practice battles with me so we can take a look at this brand new Pokemon and what it can do in a Great League format. Hopping into game number 1, leading Aegislash into Gastrodon. I am a Steel type, but I basically take no damage because I'm in the Shield form. Again, the Shield form has a 100 times defense multiplier, so ideally I want to wait for my opponent to throw energy, and then I can fire off the Shadow Ball, form change, and then look to switch. I can't stay in once I'm in Blade form because I'm going to have no defense. I'm going to get shredded by the Mud Slaps. So I fire off the Shadow Ball, opponent will commit the shield, and now I send out Primeape. Primeape will be shielding up as it's a pretty glassy Pokemon. Opponent is going to bank some energy, out comes Wigglytuff, and considering I have a Greninja in the back for this test team, I'm pretty happy to bait out a Wigglytuff. Rage Fist bait is not shielded, but I get to a boosted close combat. This will KO if my opponent does not respect it, and they do not. In the back is Shadow Marowak. I bring in Greninja. Greninja trying to get to the Night Slash. Unfortunately, I do lag by a turn there on entry, so I'm not able to get that CMP tie. I will be able to get to the back-to-back Night Slashes. Night Slash only hits for neutral damage, but it's still going to add up on the Marowak. There, I threw in case my opponent CMP tied, but they did not. It looks like they're going to try and farm down. I can't let myself get farmed, so I switch into Aegislash, and suddenly I realize if I throw a Shadow Ball, I lose the game. Marowak has a move, so if I throw a move, I lose all my defense, I'm going to have no bulk, and I'm just going to get knocked out by a Bone Club. So, I actually have to not throw a charge move and just wait to burn my switch clock. Once my switch clock is up, I can safely throw a Shadow Ball, form change, switch out, reset the form, and then I'll have my bulk back. So I will be firing off the Shadow Ball, and then I'm just going to look to switch out into the Greninja, so that way I can switch from Blade form back into Shield form. So I switch into Greninja, we get the catch, and that's exactly what I needed to have happen, because now I can bring back in the Aegislash. I'm so low, but guess what? This does not KO. I survive and I get the Shadow Ball. Absolutely ridiculous. Oh my goodness. We switch to Blade form. Shadow Ball KOs the Marowak. What an interesting and weird mechanic this Pokemon has, but we're able to take game 1. Moving into game number 2, Aegislash versus Water Gun Lantern. I think my opponent here is doing the correct strategy against this Pokemon, which is if you lead into it, you never want to throw a move before Aegislash. Instead, you actually want to hold on to your energy, wait for Aegislash to throw, shield, and then you have 100 energy to throw at their backline. Because even though Aegislash is basically invincible in its shield form, the back Pokemon absolutely are not. Now, you may notice, even though Aegislash has Psycho Cut is not doing normal Psycho Cut activities. And that's because, in the Shield form, Aegislash's Psycho Cut is a modified Psycho Cut. It only does 1 damage per Psycho Cut, no matter what, and it only generates 6 energy per turn instead of the standard 9. So they have pretty intentionally nerfed its ability to do any kind of fast move damage or to generate energy very quickly. So now my opponent is going to bank energy and pivot into Lantern. Lantern will get hit with the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will pick up the KO. In comes Golisopod, and I'm forced to commit the shield. However, this works out well for me because now I'm back in my invincible mode. Can I potentially farm down here? Psycho Cut obviously only does 1 damage every 2 turns, but these Aqua Jets are going to do nothing. In the back is Primeape, and I think my opponent just won the game. It may not be obvious yet, but they banked a move on the Golisopod. I'm able to force a shield, and then I get to send in the Greninja, but my issue is that I have to throw a move to KO the Primeape. And the moment I throw a move, I lose the game because my defense is going to be completely shredded and Golisopod's energy is going to knock me out. So I farm up to 100 here. I'll be able to KO the Primeape, but in game number 2, my opponent has found the win con against Aegislash. Banking energy, trying to get his shields down in the end game is the key to victory here, as Aqua Jet KOs the Aegislash, and we are going to lose that game. For the remainder of the battles, I believe I switched to a different backline, because after realizing how the mechanic worked, I think it really wants to be paired with Bulk. So I have a backline now of Diggersby and Araquanid. This matchup, we have Lickitung into Aegislash. We were testing to see if debuffs would cause the Licks to do any more damage. Here, I'm just going to full send the Flash Cannon into the Lickitung. What kind of damage are we looking at? We'll never know. They invest the shield, and I pivot out into Diggersby. Diggersby is going to be hit with a move. It is going to be a wrap. Opponent's staying in, so they clearly must be weak to Diggersby in the back. Diggersby will fire off this Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands will inflict some pretty solid damage. No debuff comes through, and my opponent is going to fire off more energy. These wraps, especially after the debuffs, do add up quite a bit. After seeing no damage get taken on Aegislash, it's always a little bit weird to see actual normal Pokemon come in, because suddenly the moves that are thrown are actually doing damage, and you go, wait a minute, hold on, I can't just take infinite moves like I can on Aegislash. Here, my opponent is going to switch into a Drapion. Oh no, they are so weak to Diggersby. Scorching Sands is going to be shielded, and now I get to send back in Aegislash. Aegislash is, of course, now going to be in its shield form, meaning that they basically can never do any damage. Drapion is throwing Aqua Tails, not to do damage, but just to try and burn its switch clock here. So Drapion will fire off another charge attack, going for the Aqua Tail. I throw the Flash Cannon on charge attack priority, and that's massive for me, because this means my opponent will not be able to escape before I can land a Flash Cannon with the Blade form. So now I get to form change back into Blade form, fire off this Flash Cannon into the Drapion, and they get fully one-shot. In the back, it's going to be Stunfisk. I pivoted out to again reset to the shield form, and I will commit the shield. So Mud Bomb is going to be shielded. I will get the Scorching Sands to land, and that should be game winning. I just needed to get some kind of damage on this Pokemon. I wasn't confident that a Shadow Ball from Aegislash would KO, but now from here, I'm feeling pretty good about Aegislash's ability to close out this game. So I get to bring back in Aegislash. Opponent is going to switch into Lickitung, but Lickitung just can't ever really do any damage here. I'm going to farm up to 100 energy. Even a double resisted Shadow Ball is probably going to knock out here, because they just don't have any health remaining. So I fire off the Shadow Ball, it KOs, in comes the Stunfisk. This I have to shield, because I'm in Blade form. I will get knocked out. So I commit the shield. The match timer is counting down to 0. That's how long this battle took. We switch into Blade form. That Shadow Ball is going to be KOing Stunfisk. And, oh, it looks like I accidentally cut the footage there. And we move immediately into the next match. Aegislash into Shadow Typhlosion. These Incinerates, this is the most fast move damage we've seen so far, but it's still basically no fast move damage. They throw the Blast Burn. I'm going to be firing off the Shadow Ball. Again, I think that the best play for an opponent is just to never throw energy into Aegislash. Because if you just always have 100 energy, you can always out-damage them with your fast moves compared to Aegislash doing 1 damage every 2 turns. And the moment Aegislash throws a move and has to switch, then suddenly you have 100 energy for their backline. Here, my opponent is going to send out a Quillfish. As you can see, these are teams that people put together for fun to kind of help me test the limitations of this Mon, and it turns out a lot of them are very weak to Diggersby, which is a little unfortunate for my opponent. Very fortunate for me. It's a Samurott as the final Pokemon. Samurott going to get chipped down with a Scorching Sands, and Araquanid will do a very good job at shutting down Samurott. There is Typhlosion hitting the field, and ideally, as the Araquanid, I would love to try and grab my opponent's final shield, because Aegislash really wants shields to be down, because if a move gets shielded, Aegislash becomes vulnerable and then it has to switch out or just get obliterated by these Shadow Incinerates. So I will get to fire off the Bubble Beam. Opponent is going to end up shielding. I get some Bug Bite damage, and now I get to bring in Aegislash. My opponent is debuffed, and Aegislash's defense in shield form is just absurd, so we're able to tank that no problem. In comes Samurott, and I'm just looking to farm to 100. Samurott will fire off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is going to connect. That does basically no damage. Opponent gets to fire off another move, and unfortunately, that's not going to do any damage either. Now I get to fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is going to be picking up the KO. Obviously, there's the pause for the form change. As down goes Samurott, in comes Typhlosion. I transfer the Incinerate damage onto the Araquanid. And now, as the Blast Burn basically knocks me out, I can bring in the Aegislash and take the win with the Shadow Ball. This mechanic is going to take so much time for me to get used to. Oh my goodness. This is just unlike anything we've ever seen in the game. Shadow Ball KOs Typhlosion, and we're able to take that game. Aegislash into Shadow Steelix in the next match. Steelix obviously going to be on Thunderfang, and my opponent, realistically, if they just overfarm a ton, things get really awkward here. So I'm farming to the max. My opponent, oh, they try and CMP tie when I get to 100, but I was always going to overfarm and wait for them to throw first. My opponent does Breaking Swipe debuff me. That means the Shadow Ball will not be nearly as threatening once I switch to Blade form. So now we're Blade form, Aegislash, Shadow Ball lands. That still does stupid damage. I save switch Diggersby. Out comes Bombardier. Bombardier going to get hit with a Fire Punch. Fire Punch never going to do a ton of damage. Bombardier, even though Bombardier is pretty glassy, Fire Punch, not the strongest attack from a Diggersby. Fly's gonna land. I would love to be able to quick attack down after landing this Fire Punch. This Fire Punch will not knock out. Can I get the farm down? No, Bombardier with the 1 HP survive, and I will commit the shield. I think that keeping Diggersby around could potentially be valuable. So Diggersby with energy, it's gonna be Shadow Scizor, and this is gonna be an interesting game. Scizor obviously will be forced to commit the shield on the Fire Punch. They get the farm down, and now I get to send out Araquanid. In comes Steelix, answered with Aegislash. Now the question is, can I ever get a full farm down? Obviously, my Psycho Cuts only do 1 damage every 2 turns, so against a Pokemon that has a lot of HP, my farm ability is just absolutely garbage. So I'm realizing now that there's no way I'm ever going to be able to farm down, so they're going to continually debuff my defense more and more with Psychic Fangs. I am actually afraid of how much damage these bullet punches from Scizor are going to do. So I will fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will pick up the KO. In comes Scizor, and look at my defense. I'm getting melted. Oh my goodness. Shadow Ball will be shielded. Quick switch to Araquanid, and now I'm back into shield form for the end game. They're going to fire off the Night Slash. They have so much loaded energy on this Shadow Scizor. Scizor, Night Slash after Night Slash, fishing for a boost, but it's not going to happen. Araquanid will get to the Bubble Beam right before my opponent is able to get to their move. Bubble Beam will land. Opponent will fire off the last second charge attack. I'm still going to be no shielding. Scizor, Trailblaze, does it pick up the KO? No, it does not. And Araquanid farms down and takes the win. We've got the battle of the form changers in the next match. Aegislash versus Morpeko. Morpeko is going to play to the CMP tie, obviously winning CMP over Aegislash shield form by a mile. Aura Wheel is going to land. That is an electric Aura Wheel. The effectiveness text is incorrect for it. And now I will return fire with the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is resisted on Morpeko here. Morpeko did not want to deal with it. They will commit the shield. The safe switch Diggersby answered with Annihilate. Obviously, this is a terrible spot to be, as Diggersby, Scorching Sands is going to land. No debuff will come through. Ideally, I want to try and get shields down. It really seems like Aegislash prefers shields down, so I will actually shield up the Ice Punch and then go for the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands will be enough to pick up the knockout unless my opponent will decide to commit the shield, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Scorching Sands debuffs, that just gives them extra energy. And now, things get a little bit uncomfortable. I bring in Araquanid, because I do want to try and preserve Aegislash as much as I can. They're going to go for the Rage Fist. They get to boost up. In comes Morpeko, and I have to protect myself against the Electric Aura Wheel. At this point, I don't remember how much residual energy they banked. I'm farming up, and I misremembered it. This might be bad. Morpeko will inflict massive damage with Aura Wheel. I should have just switched into the Aegislash sooner. I just lost too much health on that Pokemon, and now I probably cannot recover. So that's entirely my fault. I was just feeling a bit tired after a lot of playtesting, and that miscount will probably cost me this game. Aegislash obviously just going to continue to farm as Morpeko ramps up more and more and more. They go for the Aura Wheel. it's actually starting to do real damage now. So Morpeko, a Pokemon that can actually inflict some serious damage even when this Mon is in shield form. So I will fire off the Shadow Ball into Morpeko, switch to the Blade form. That's going to pick up the knockout. In the back is Greninja. I'm taking big damage from the Water Shurikens as I fire off the Shadow Ball. Unfortunately, if I had a full health Araquanid, I could win this game. But I miscounted, so I lost my whole Araquanid, and now we're actually going to lose. Believe it or not, one Night Slash doesn't KO. They need a second Night Slash, but my opponent will be able to take the win. My goodness, this is definitely a Pokemon. Wow, okay. Hopping into the final match, we've got a fun pick from my opponent as we lead Aegislash into Metal Sound Kingambit. Kingambit, obviously a complete wall to the charge attacks from Aegislash, but Kingambit really doesn't have the defensive stats. So even though it's a full wall, it's still probably going to take a lot of damage. Dark Pulse lands, and that does not do much. Aegislash will fire off the Shadow Ball. There's going to be the switch into the Blade form. Aegislash's Shadow Ball, massive damage onto Kingambit. The safe switch into Diggersby answered with a Wigglytuff. And this is looking pretty good for the Diggersby. Diggersby is ahead enough that I believe it can actually make it to another Scorching Sands before the opponent makes the Icy Wind. Scorching Sands will not knock out here, but it will inflict some serious damage, so Wigglytuff will end up committing the shield. Tough call to make. I decided to let this go because I know I can survive it, and I should at least make a Fire Punch here. Unfortunately, I can't make the Scorching, but even a Fire Punch will add up. And now this is going to get it into a very low range where Aegislash can potentially think about Psycho Cutting it all the way down. But the issue for me now is Wigglytuff has a lot of HP. So trying to Psycho Cut this down is pretty miserable. I'm never going to do less than 1 damage because 1 damage is the minimum. So I just farm to 100 and fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is going to be picking up the knockout as I switch back into the Blade form. Opponent, what are they going to be bringing in here? It's going to be a Hex Dust Noir, and look at the damage I just took from a Hex. I fire off the Shadow Ball, they're going to shield. I forgot that I didn't form change back. For a second there, in my head, I was like, oh, this is Morpeko. If I throw another move, I form change back. But no, I only form change back if I shield while I'm in Blade form or if I switch out. So I'm forced to switch out. Kingambit's going to be firing off a bunch of moves. But the funny thing is I should just be able to win this game with the Aegislash. It's super low. It is super low. It is basically no health left. But Aegislash takes no damage, basically. In this moment right here, I don't even think I had to shield. I shielded it first. My opponent ended up going for a Dynamic Punch, which is resisted. Now they're going to go for the Shadow Punch, and just look at this. It just doesn't KO. Aegislash survives. I assume it's not supposed to be this bulky. I assume it's supposed to be very bulky, although to be fair, we haven't really gotten any guidance on how this mechanic is supposed to work. So we're not 100% sure. But yeah, that is Aegislash. Unlike anything we've ever seen before. Personally, I'm of the opinion that they probably didn't intend it to be this strong when it's in shield form. Granted, I could be mistaken. Obviously, they haven't really given us any info on how it's supposed to work, so we're kind of just going off of the mechanics as they work now. But I do know that it has officially been banned from competitive play. I wouldn't be surprised if it received a Go Battle League ban. We'll have to see how the day plays out. But yeah, that's a first look at Aegislash. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.